Good morning, everyone. You are all very welcome to this morning's webinar in partnership with Google Digital Garage and Dún Laoghaire Rathdown Chamber. With many elements of the economy reopening over the coming weeks, County Wexford Chamber and Dún Laoghaire Rathdown Chamber are hoping to upskill as many people as possible to combat the effects of the pandemic. County Wexford Chamber and Dún Laoghaire Rathdown Chamber are working with Google Digital Garage to deliver this 5-part webinar series. These 5 expert-led webinars will cover a range of topics that are vital to a business online. We will cover topics including optimize your ad campaigns with advanced strategies, smart creatives, reach the right customer with the right message, digital marketing strategy, expert workshop, scale your brand and advertise across borders, and social media strategy. These webinars will help our members to best position their business online as the economy continues to reopen. I hope you can take something from this morning's workshop and join us for the future webinars in the coming weeks. Without further ado, I will now pass you over to this morning's trainer, and I hope you all enjoy this morning's session. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to this Google Digital Garage webinar session, all about smart creatives, how you can reach the right customers with the right message. Before we kind of kick off with this webinar session, if anybody's having any sort of technical difficulties in kind of viewing this webinar session itself, as we are completely live today, this morning, what I highly recommend is go through the usual kind of troubleshooting methods that we all tend to do if technology doesn't work for us instantly, and that is maybe refresh this web browser page that you're currently on if you're tuning on something like a desktop or a laptop. If you're tuning on like a smartphone or a tablet, perhaps maybe come out of the YouTube app and then click on the link that you received for this webinar session again, and then hopefully everything will load back correctly for you in the YouTube app, and then you be able to kind of hear and see me clearly. Now, for those of you who are okay and can hear and see me clearly, then that's wonderful news. What I recommend to everyone in this webinar session is to grab a pen and paper, or if you're kind of a bit too digitally minded like me, don't really use pen and papers that often anymore, feel free to kind of grab whichever note-taking device. That's just going to help to kind of jot down some notes as we go along throughout the course of this webinar session. Okay, so I hope for those of you who might have any sort of technical difficulties can now hear and see me. So without further ado, welcome to this Google Digital Garage webinar session on smart creatives, how you can reach the right customers with the right message, which is delivered today in partnership with Wexford Chamber, as well as Dún Laoghaire Rathdown Chamber as well. So I really hope that you find this webinar session useful in terms of what we're going to be covering today. So my name is Rikesh. I'm going to be your webinar presenter, taking you through the course of this session, which is going to last for approximately 60 minutes. So a little bit about me first. I'm a trainer for Google's digital skills program, Google Digital Garage. As well as that, I'm also a digital marketer. So I work with businesses to help them to create and to grow their online presence in order to make them more discoverable to their customers. And let's face it, most of us, I guess, are kind of our customers these days for whatever we are buying. But a lot of us, more so, I guess, in the last 18 months or so, are actually spending a lot more time online and shopping online as well. So that's kind of a little bit about what I do. And that's going to kind of form the theme of today's webinar session, because we are going to be looking to optimize this kind of process of, from a business point of view, of being kind of seen and being found much easier, especially from an advertising point of view, when we're going to be touching upon something known as smart creatives. Now, I'd also like to introduce to you at this stage my colleague and fellow Google Digital Garage trainer, and that is Emma. Now, Emma's going to be our wonderful chat moderator. Now, when I say chat, you might have noticed either on the bottom right of your screen or kind of just right, like literally to the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see that there's a live chat box. You might have seen some messages that have already kind of scrolled up. This is your space over the course of the next hour to get involved. So feel free to kind of answer some of the questions that you might see on screen here. If you feel you're able to kind of contribute, definitely kind of pop your thoughts into that live chat box, and definitely kind of ask questions. I might not know all the answers. If I don't, I'll simply just say, look, I hold my hands up, I don't know the answer. You might need to go away and Google it, ironically. But definitely kind of pop in your thoughts and questions as we go along. And I'd love to kind of get around to as many questions and comments of yours as possible. And as well as that, my colleague Emma will be kind of keeping tabs on the live chat as we go along, and we'll be able to kind of answer questions as we progress along as well. I know some of you have already been getting involved, and our webinar partner, County Wexford Chamber, has already provided a nice nice warm introduction, so welcome. We've also got Kimmy, who's tuning in from a very sunny Dublin today, so fantastic. So it's very sunny where I am, based in the UK as well, in the Midlands. So yeah, it's great to see that there's a lot of sunshine going on today as well. So definitely get involved in that live chat. Now, something that was mentioned on that introduction video from our webinar partner for today's session was that this is part of a 5-part webinar series that is being run in collaboration with Wexford Chamber and Dun Laoghaire Rathdown Chamber. So this is the second of those webinars in the 5-part series. So the next webinar session is going to be happening next Wednesday. So that's going to be the 29th, Wednesday, 29th of September at 11 a.m. And that's going to be around the topic of digital marketing strategy, where you'll be able to kind of learn and kind of be taken through a framework which will help you to kind of create a strategy for how you promote your products and services in the online space, whether it be kind of looking at social media, whether it be looking at running things such as Google Ads, whether it be kind of other avenues such as email marketing, etc. So that's where that session will be a little bit more of kind of a deep dive in regards to kind of creating that framework and strategy to help your marketing efforts online as well. So be sure to kind of get signed up for that. So I'm sure that Emma will kindly drop a link to sign up for that next webinar session in the live chat. So definitely kind of make sure that you kind of signed up for that webinar session. Now, a resource I want to kind of highlight and point you towards is a resource called the Google Digital Garage website. So the Google Digital Garage website, a link to which is in the video description box below where I'm pointing. Within one of those paragraphs, you'll see there's a link to the Google Digital Garage website where you'll find a resource known as online courses. So on the online courses tab, once you click onto it, you'll see a list of lots of different online courses which are provided by Google at no charge, and you can complete these courses in your own time and at your own pace. Now, a lot of these courses actually supplement the learning that you do on these types of Google Digital Garage webinar sessions. Now, there's one course in particular called the Fundamentals of Digital Marketing course, which once completed, as well as getting a great understanding as to how businesses promote their products and services in the online space and how they measure their performance as well, is as an added bonus, you will actually receive a certificate from Google at no charge, recognizing that you've completed that particular online course as well. And so it's definitely a fantastic resource to kind of have a look at when you do get a moment. But when it comes to this session itself, I want to kind of kick off with some questions here for you. And this is just kind of an open question I'd love to kind of just throw out to you all. So let me know your thoughts in that live chat. So you can see it. 2 questions here on screen. So how can I reach customers more effectively? So how can I, or you can kind of just replace that with how can we as a business reach more customers effectively, or reach customers more effectively, should I say? And does anybody know what we mean by smart creatives? And if so, has anybody kind of used them when it comes to kind of running adverts online as well? So definitely kind of let me know your thoughts in the live chat as we go along. So just kind of, I'll leave those questions with you just to kind of pop in your thoughts as we progress throughout this webinar session. So speaking of this webinar session, throughout this webinar session, we're going to be kind of focusing on 3 different types of smart creatives, and we'll come on to what we mean by smart creatives, because these are essentially kind of solutions that are going to help make our life easier a lot of the time. Kind of it's going to help us kind of save us a lot of time when we are running adverts online, especially on running kind of Google Ads in general as well. Now, the 3 types of kind of smart creatives that we're going to be focusing on today are something known as responsive search ads. So we'll be kind of looking at what that is and what the benefits of responsive search ads are. We're then going to be looking at another type of search ad, which is a smart creative, which are dynamic search ads. So we'll actually be looking at how dynamic search ads can help you as a business to get more website visitors, to get more website traffic in effect as well. And then we'll kind of round off this webinar session looking at, because we've already touched upon 2 different types of search ads, we'll actually round off by actually having a look at kind of the impact that a responsive display ad can have when it comes to running kind of more of a kind of an autonomous kind of advertising campaign online. So let's kick off with kind of utilizing responsive search ads first up. So Just kind of another question I'd love to kind of throw out to you, and let me know your thoughts in the live chat. What kind of words would you use to describe? I'm going to switch out that word of users, switch out that word for customers. So, what words would you use to describe your customers' behavior these days? So, the typical customer, what kind of, I guess, traits do they have in terms of when they are kind of in consumer mode or kind of customer mode? What sort of traits do they have? What's their patience level like nowadays? How kind of demanding are they? So what are kind of some of these traits that you've kind of encountered from kind of, I guess, the more modern day online consumer? So let me know your thoughts. And as we kind of go through that, I'd like for you just kind of have a look at some of these kind of traits that we've kind of just selected in terms of kind of, this is more kind of an overview of some of the traits that you might be already thinking about or dropping into that live chat. So generally a lot of kind of consumers today, especially those that are online, are a lot more curious. So most of us kind of, if we need the answer, find the answer to something, we will literally just Google it nowadays. It's become like a verb, right? So we will actually do that. So curiosity pretty much kind of gets the better of us at times. So if we're looking for a certain type of business, it might be a plumber, for instance. Then chances are nowadays we will just kind of type in something like best plumber in Dublin, or whatever it might be, right? Now our consumers these days are also quite demanding. And that kind of that's kind of been seen in terms of how we use the internet, how we are kind of drawn to certain adverts over others online as well. So we can be quite kind of more demanding as consumer. And we say, and I keep referring to us as we, because we do the same when we're looking for certain products and services which other businesses happen to kind of provide for us as well. And another kind of factor is that we have kind of become a lot more impatient, because I guess as technology, as times kind of moved on, we tend to kind of want something immediately. I guess if you think about platforms such as the likes of kind of social media, where we're kind of used to kind of that instant gratification. We want information straight away. We'll kind of jump onto specific websites to find out answers to something in particular, or we'll kind of type something into Google, hit the enter key, and expect kind of relevant results in particular as well. So that's quite kind of important to kind of be mindful of as well. I mean, one fact that you might be aware of, or you may or may not be aware of, is that the kind of the words near me now are actually included in a lot of search terms nowadays, because people are looking for something not just near me, but near me now. So years ago, we would have just typed in, I don't know, best restaurant in Dublin. Whereas now we'll just type in best restaurant near me. But now we'll take that even further because of the impatience. We might just type in best pizza near me now, for instance, as well. So that's something to be mindful of. I mean, so much so that in terms of the searches in terms of kind of the Google searches, there's been 150% growth in people typing in near me now as some part of their search kind of query in general as well. So that's something to kind of be mindful with some of these kind of traits of our consumers these days as well. Just picking up on a comment here from Shannon, who's mentioned informed. So kind of research, yeah, that's something that we that we tend to do as online consumers these days. We kind of just want to make sure that we're in the know. So I think that's quite important as well. And Derek's mentioned kind of, in our case, compliance with regulations, kind of short attention, mobile search based. So it's all kind of, and that's a really important point you mentioned there, Derek, is that we have become kind of a world which kind of goes mobile first, rather than kind of opening up a desktop or opening up a laptop lid. We actually go straight away from kind of what's become kind of our default or primary device, which has been a smartphone for the vast majority of it as well. As kind of, you've also mentioned kind of unclear what they're looking for, so nature of regulation needs. So yeah, kind of they're looking for a sense of clarity as well. So it's important that we kind of identify what these kind of behavioral and kind of personality type of traits are of the people that are spending time online. Because consumers in general, everything that's kind of been mentioned by both Derek, Shannon, and even what we've just kind of discussed on screen a moment ago, is that consumers now have that expectation level of receiving the right message for them. So if we're kind of rounding this back off to kind of advertising specifically, they expect the right type of advert to appear to them when they're searching for certain types of products or services or kind of certain businesses within particular industries as well. And they don't just want to receive kind of the right message, they want to receive it at the right time as well. And there has become a little bit more of kind of a barrier, and it has become a little bit more challenging for us as businesses, I guess, to reach out to customers. One of the challenge, I guess, which has kind of been, I guess, a good challenge because it's kind of helped to evolve technology, is something like voice search. So I'm sure whichever kind of smartphone that you have right now, you have a voice assistant of sorts, or maybe you have kind of some of these devices set up in your home where you can just kind of go, you can just say kind of Alexa, or you can just say kind of, hey Google, for instance, and then it'll be able to kind of answer certain queries such as, what's the weather like today in Dublin? So you can kind of answer those questions can be answered directly as well. So that's something which actually takes away from specific types of advertising which you can run off the back of that, because not as many people are actually those kind of generic questions which voice assistants are really capable of answering quite thoroughly nowadays as well. That's kind of a sector which has kind of been taken away when it comes to us as advertisers reaching customers. There's also a lot of new queries that come through. So on average, 15% of daily searches on google.com are actually new kind of queries that people are typing into that Google search box, which is quite staggering considering the amount of kind of search results that we all tend to get when we kind of Google something nowadays. So 15% of kind of Google search queries that are typed in on google.com into that Google search box are actually new as well. So from an advertising point of view, we kind of have to play a bit of catch up, because this is something which nobody's really searched for, but has now kind of come into the ether in general as well. And another factor is kind of complex websites. So one thing which I'm sure some of you might be doing with your business website is continually updating it, adding kind of new keywords, kind of adding different products which might be completely new to the industry as well. So that's another thing which makes it a little bit more challenging. It's not kind of all of these that you can see on screen. It's not to say, right, it's fully taken away from the advertising aspect, but it's just something which kind of can slow us down in terms of seeing the results that we want to see with advertising in general. And that kind of brings me to kind of one of the solutions, which is what we're kind of covering in today's webinar session, which is Google Ads Smart Creatives. And Google Ads Smart Creatives allow us as advertisers to take advantage of the intent signals that people are sending when they're kind of spending time browsing online across platforms, to ensure that the right type of message is getting delivered to the right person and roughly around about the right sort of time. And there might be a little bit of kind of an adjustment period and refinement period that we might need to go through as well. So we can, right now we can jump onto Google Ads and run kind of search adverts. So these are adverts that will appear exclusively on Google search. But then you've also got display adverts, which are adverts which will appear on other people's websites in general as well. So we can run them right now. But a lot of the time with running these types of adverts, we're doing a lot of the legwork. Now, what Smart Creatives does is that some of them, as we'll kind of explore kind of responsive search ads, dynamic search ads, and responsive display ads, we'll explore them and kind of deep dive into each one of these a little bit more as we progress throughout this session. Is each one of these very much kind of once we've kind of done a little bit of work from the outset, that's when kind of Google takes over with its machine learning. Because with machine learning, it kind of makes kind of life easier for us, because we can actually focus less on the creative side, hence kind of the name of Smart Creative. So creative side's kind of being taken care of to some extent, and we'll look at kind of examples of that. And once that's kind of taken care of, we can kind of work faster and kind of focus more on the ad strategy side of things for our business. So that's going to also help us kind of work smarter and hopefully look to kind of win us more customers and kind of get more people visiting our website and or get more people buying our products or kind of buying our service as well. So let's kind of kick off with responsive search ads. So with responsive search ads, you can see here on screen, you can automatically test and optimize different combinations of search ad assets. So what we mean by search ad assets, as you'll kind of hear this term assets quite often throughout this webinar session, is assets are things such as kind of ad headlines, such as descriptions. I mean, for these types of for this type of ad, which are kind of search-based ads, it's not going to be relevant. But as part of kind of ad assets are things such as kind of logos, are things such as kind of images as well. But because these adverts are just going to be appearing on Google search, they're just going to be text-based. So from our point of view, for responsive search ads, we're kind of referring here to kind of ad headlines and also ad descriptions. So it uses combinations of all these different ad headlines and ad descriptions, and then it combines that with machine learning technology to ensure that the right type of headline, along with an appropriate description, is served right to the right type of customer or consumer at the right sort of time when they actually see the Google search results appear on their screen as well. So when it comes to kind of running through this process of kind of responsive search ads, it requires a little bit of input from us, and that begins with adding headlines. We can look to reuse existing online content. We can look to utilize keywords, and also improve something known as our ad strength. So let's actually kick off with kind of adding headlines and descriptions. So something I mentioned when we kind of just touched upon just a moment or so when I talked about kind of smart creatives is that it can require initial work from our end. And this initial work, from the point of view of this type of smart creative solution in responsive search ads that we're talking about right now, will require us to come up with ad headlines and ad descriptions. It's a little bit like creating, a little bit like, as you would if you went to a presentation and you had a lot of different questions, you make a note of them, you make a kind of a question bank that you can then kind of fire away after that. So it's a bit like kind of creating a headline, an ad headline bank, and an ad description bank. So these don't need to kind of fully kind of work with each other. We don't need to overthink these too much, but we do need to kind of make sure that we kind of a best practice side of things when it comes to creating these ad headlines descriptions is that we want to try and create roughly about 5 unique headlines. Now, you can actually supply Google Ads with up to 15 ad headlines and up to 4 ad descriptions, which they then kind of work with and kind of use machine learning with. But some best practice when it comes to kind of adding these headlines is try and kind of create 5 unique headlines, maybe related around a certain product. So 5, let's say you got 5 different products, you got 5 unique headlines. What you can then do is kind of double that up with 5 more headlines. Each one of those headlines are related to each one of those products. So for, let's say, each product, you have 2 headlines that you have in your bank ready to kind of supply to Google Ads. And then similarly with kind of descriptions as well, we can add up to 4. So we want to kind of make sure that some could be kind of relating to, so maybe one description could relate to another, or you could just decide to have 4 separate and unique descriptions there as well. So you might think, oh, Rikesh, it seems like quite a lot of hard work this does, like supplying headlines and descriptions. But the beauty of kind of these smart creative solutions is that once you've done this initial legwork, once you've kind of come up with these headlines and descriptions, that's something which we then can, to a certain degree, we can sort of park a little bit, because then the machine learning from Google's end takes care of when these adverts show, in what sort of headline and description kind of formula that it kind of appears in general as well. Now, a resource that we can kind of tap into in order to help us with kind of some ad headlines and descriptions is kind of reuse existing content. So if we've been running kind of text ads on Google Ads, which have been kind of relatively successful, we can pick out those ones that have been relatively successful and actually utilize and pick out certain kind of keywords. Maybe just take a whole kind of description that we've already used from a text-based ad as well. So a lot of the time, we're not starting from a standing start. we actually have kind of something to go off. Now, this might not necessarily be the case if you're kind of just kicking off with your with running on Google Ads through smart creatives from the outset. So then it might just kind of take a little bit more time, a little bit more work, kind of coming up with some of those ad headlines and descriptions. But we can reuse existing content that we have if applicable to you as well. Now, we also want to make sure that we're including keywords in our headlines. So keywords are essentially those words or phrases that people are typing into the Google search box. And from an advertising point of view on Google Ads, for those of you who've already kind of used Google Ads before to run search-based ads, it kind of marries up what somebody's typing in. So you can see a good example of that here on screen. So somebody types in pizza delivery into the search box, and then one of the ads that appears is Tony's Pizzeria, but then it's actually got keywords in its headline which says home pizza delivery. So pizza delivery is there as a keyword as well. Now, sometimes it can be a little bit challenging to kind of find, okay, what are the keywords are relating to what I'm selling? What sort of, in terms of what type of store mine is, whether it be an online store, or whether it be kind of an in-person kind of a physical retail outfit that you have as well. What kind of keywords kind of spring to mind that people are generally typing in? Now, a tool that can help us along this journey is a tool which is built in actually to the Google Ads platform, and it's called the Google Ads Keyword Planner. And we can use this Google Ads Keyword Planner tool without even running any adverts or kind of going, kind of without spending a penny. So that tool is built into this platform, which we can use to make sure that we're kind of using keywords in our headline process. So that's kind of a really great resource to kind of look at. Now, when it comes to our kind of ad headlines that we're kind of creating and ad descriptions, one thing to be mindful of is the fact that Google Ads generally has kind of a barometer as to how strong your Google Ads are, and that is reflected in what Google Ads kind of describes as the Google Ads strength. So your adverts, whether it's kind of created through this machine learning process, or whether it's kind of those adverts that you might be creating under some other smart creative solutions that we'll look at later on as well, it essentially will kind of benchmark you based upon kind of the relevancy of your advert. It will benchmark you against the quantity of adverts as well that you have, as well as kind of the diversity of these responsive search ads that you are looking to kind of run in general as well. And we want to make sure that we have at least a good ad strength, and this is something that we can actually check within our own kind of Google Ads dashboard. It will kind of show you kind of the strength of certain ads that you're running, and eventually we want to kind of make certain kind of adjustments and alterations in order for us to kind of get to excellent, which is kind of the pinnacle that we want to essentially get to. Now, how can we do that? What's kind of some of the tips that can help us get from kind of good to excellent, for instance? Well, one thing that we can do is we can kind of make sure that we're kind of creating specific ad groups. So what I mean by kind of creating specific ad groups is we can have kind of certain ads, a group of adverts which we kind of want to focus on, which are focused on maybe one type of specific product or one specific kind of range, if you want to kind of broaden it out in general as well. Because the more specific you are with the adverts generally, the more relevant you'll be to a specific customer who's looking for that particular product as well. Now, another way that can really kind of improve your ad strength is by making sure that you are choosing your keywords carefully. And as you mentioned, the Google Ads Keyword Planner is a really great kind of tool to kind of use in your arsenal of tools to help you to kind of find out what people are generally kind of typing into that Google search box as well. Now, we also want to make sure that our advert is kind of is looking kind of elegant, in the sense that kind of the words that are written kind of are coherent more than anything else as well. And something which I'm sure many of us kind of do with a lot of our advertising, for those of you businesses that are already kind of advertising, whether it be kind of offline advertising or online kind of advertising, is to include a strong call to action. So this is a prompt for the person on the other end of the screen, or offline for the other person who maybe reads your advert somewhere, to take an action that you want them to take. So these are kind of phrases such as buy now, sell here, it could be browse, it could be get quotes as well. And this is something which tends to work from kind of a marketing aspect, which I've found anyway, and I've kind of bought into it as well as a consumer with things such as buy now as well. I mean, sure, for some of you, if you kind of if you follow even some of your favorite YouTubers, you've all kind of probably even heard of these verbal calls to actions which many YouTubers make. So they'll say towards the end of the video, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell as well. So these are all prompts. And this is something which it works with consumers in general. So this is something that we want to maybe focus on, make sure that we're kind of got the right type of we've got the right type of phrasing in terms of our call to action as well. And then kind of the final sort of top tip I could probably give when it comes to kind of going from that good to excellent when it comes to ad strength is just review kind of your headlines, review descriptions, and then kind of don't be afraid to kind of chop and change, kind of add in another headline and kind of replace one that you've already got, which isn't maybe performing as well. So we want to kind of review, and then off the back of that, we can make kind of adjustments and kind of refinements as well. Now, a few kind of criteria to consider when it comes to kind of optimizing our ad strength for these responsive search ads is think about kind of location, think about web browser, think about kind of demographics, the past performance of some of your responsive search ads. So you can actually have a look at the previous kind of information and data and make adjustments off the back of that. Think about the time of day that these responsive search ads are going to be running, and some of the search queries that people are typing in. How's that going to correlate specifically to some of the keywords that you've actually kind of popped into your into your ad headlines and descriptions as well? How does they kind of correlate? Are people's search behaviors changing over a period of time? Because they tend to change over periods of time. Something that we kind of discussed earlier on was the search term of near me is kind of added when a lot of people are kind of searching for businesses nowadays. And that's something that we weren't typing in years ago. We were typing in specific kind of area that we're based in. So we were typing in kind of in Dublin rather than kind of near me as well. So that's something to kind of be mindful of there as well. So that's just kind of a brief kind of overview of kind of one type of smart creative solution, which are responsive search ads. Okay, let's have a quick check-in to see if there's any sort of comments or questions from you all. Okay, so I can't see any comments or questions at the moment, because I appreciate that this is, if you've never kind of come across something like smart creative solutions, then it is definitely something that kind of takes a bit of time to kind of absorb. And all these smart creative solutions that we're kind of going through. So we've been through responsive search ads. We're now going to go through dynamic search ads, and then we'll kind of round off by looking at responsive display ads. These are all options. That's what kind of this webinar is here to do. Just show and kind of provide the options, and then you can kind of select, okay, I'm going to use this smart creative solution, and maybe later down the line you can kind of combine that with another smart creative solution as well. So let's kind of now move on to the second type of smart creative that we're talking about today, which is using dynamic search ads. So what are dynamic search ads? Well, dynamic search ads, as you can see here, gain incremental reach by letting machine learning. So again, machine learning comes into play. It's kind of doing the heavy lifting for us, together with web crawling technology, to determine where and when your ads should show. So these dynamic search ads, this is very much different to what we've just discussed when it comes to responsive search ads, because the main kind of source of kind of content is going to come from our website rather than our kind of physical input of kind of headlines or ad descriptions as well. So that's what we kind of mean by these dynamic search ads. And these adverts, again, because they are search ads, they will appear on Google search. So that's the only place they essentially will appear. So when it comes to how these kind of dynamic search ads work, so when when kind of your customer or potential customer searches on Google, what a dynamic search ad does is that it crawls your website, your business website, to match somebody's query together with what some of your website content is. So from your point of view, as a business that is going to be running dynamic search ads, we want to make sure that we have quite a lot of content on our website, which is kind of relevant to what people are searching for. So it could be something as simple as the headline of a blog that you've written, which has kind of links. So let's say somebody's searching for a term in somebody's searching for a term in Google, which is something like luxury hotel in Dublin. So they might see your advert if you run, let's say, an international hotel chain with a hotel in Dublin as a branch. They might see your dynamic search ad appear in their Google search results, and they might see your headline, which could typically appear as luxury hotel Dublin. Now that content, that kind of headline, is actually taken from what you've kind of written somewhere along in your website. Now you can specify how much of a website that Google Ads can kind of look at when you're kind of running these type of dynamic search ads. Now, once that person clicks onto that advert, you can ensure, and actually this is something which Google Ads will kind of intuitively be able to kind of look at when it's kind of doing the machine learning process as well, is that when somebody actually clicks onto your advert, which is for kind of luxury hotel Dublin, you will actually be the person who's actually searching for that will actually be taken to that specific page, which shows all the information about the Dublin hotel. So even if you've got like 50 different hotels dotted across the world, but you've obviously got one in Dublin as well, you'll be taken to that specific Dublin page because that's kind of relevant to what that person has been kind of searching for as well. And it's in relation to what the advert has been put in, as it's in relation to what the advert is kind of referring to as well. So an example is what you can kind of see here on screen. So let's say if I was to type in best compact camera for travel into Google, and as to hit the enter key, like you can see with this kind of short video clip here, you'll see kind of a list of results. Now, in terms of these list of search ad results that you see appear, what you will actually tend to find a lot of the time is this is something that you can actively set. Is you can, if you have a particular area of your website where you just sell compact cameras, maybe you have another part of your website that just sells any other kind of equipment. So let's say one part of your website sells compact cameras for travel, the other part of your website sells I don't know, it sells smartphones, for instance. So it's two kind of distinct areas, just for this kind of example here. So when somebody was to type in best compact camera for travel, you can ensure and kind of set the parameters so that Google Ads is actually just looking at certain kind of web page or web page kind of links, so kind of URL links which contain certain words such as camera or compact or travel, something in that regards as well. So the only type of adverts that will appear will be those adverts, and when people click onto those links, you'll be taken to certain kind of compact camera for travel type of pages that you might have on your website. So everything kind of links through to kind of the importance and the power of your particular business website as well. And this is probably the reason why when it comes to this type of smart creative solution, it's probably, from my point of view, it's probably going to be geared more towards those of you who have quite a wide kind of product range, perhaps, or that you've been or that you've got a fair amount of kind of products as part of your kind of e-commerce store, because you've kind of got a lot more to kind of work with when you are running these types of dynamic search adverts. Now, the benefits of these type of dynamic search adverts, similarly to the responsive search adverts, is that it can be a time saver, and this is actually more of a time saver than running those responsive search ads, because you've not got to actually rely and worry about kind of creating these ad headlines and descriptions and kind of putting them into the machine learning technology, because this is actually more reliant upon kind of work that you've technically done in terms of creating your website and creating content for your website as well. Now, another benefit is that what Google Ads will do is that it will auto generate headlines for your adverts that are going to be running and that is going to be based upon your kind of your web pages, content that you have on your website as well. Now you might think, oh, I don't really have that much control, but you still actually have quite a lot of control when it comes to these dynamic search ads still, because you're able to kind of have a certain level of kind of segregation in terms of which web pages that Google Ads actually kind of takes this from, takes kind of information and kind of create some of these auto-generated headlines from as well. Now, an added kind of side effect as a benefit that you get from these dynamic search ads is the fact that you can kind of capture more additional traffic. You can get more people visiting your website. These might kind of be people who are just kind of tentative. They're the I guess the online version of kind of window shoppers that are kind of just browsing around. So you're just getting more people in, and the more people you kind of bring into your business and bring into your business website, the more chances you have of making a sale, right? So it's just kind of playing kind of that law of averages there as well. So they're kind of some of the benefits of running dynamic search ads there as well. Now you can actually implement these dynamic search ads alongside responsive search ads and kind of create a and your kind of your advertising strategy is kind of created around that by running kind of a hybrid and kind of a mixture of both of these as well. So that's something to kind of be mindful of as well, because when it comes to these dynamic search ads that we've just mentioned, which is kind of heavily reliant upon your website content, when it comes to these types of adverts that you're running, the actual type of the amount of kind of traffic, the amount of people that are visiting your website increases very kind of gradually. It's not kind of a huge kind of shoot up in numbers that are kind of visiting your website. It happens kind of organically, which is great. So you're getting kind of steadily getting more people visiting as well. So you can actually use kind of a hybrid and kind of use that, keep that going, but then also use some responsive search ads, kind of test that out, see what's working as well. So add in certain kind of headlines and adverts as well. Headlines and descriptions as well, which will allow Google's machine learning to sort of create some responsive search ads and see which one's performing the best. And then maybe use more of your advertising budget in one or the other, whichever one's kind of performing the best for you as well. So with that in mind, let's have a check-in to see if there's any sort of questions at this stage. Okay, so I can't see any questions at the moment. If there are any questions, pop them into the live chat as we progress along. And as I mentioned, this is another when it came to kind of display search ads that we just spoke about. That's another option. So it's going to be some of these are going to be more relevant to certain businesses and certain kind of circumstances than others as well. So that's another option. Now, the final type of option that I want to kind of touch upon in this webinar session is through kind of display adverts. And display adverts is a really great way of improving kind of our ad performance in general as well. So with that in mind, what are response display ads, right? So we've kind of been through two types of smart creative solutions. Now we kind of want to go to a slightly different one, because we're actually looking at display adverts rather than search adverts. So search adverts appear exclusively on search engines, and running it through Google Ads, they will appear exclusively on Google Search. However, display adverts appear on publisher sites, on other people's websites, websites such as kind of blogs and local news sites and other types of website, kind of tech review blogs perhaps as well, that accept display adverts on their web pages there as well. So responsive search ads, kind of taking things on a bit further, is where machine learning is used. So you can see kind of there's machine learning everywhere. And this machine learning, remember, is there to kind of help us out. It's there to do a lot of that heavy lifting for us. And you can see here, responsive display ads leverage machine learning to seamlessly serve the right ads to the right customers across the Google display network by automatically optimizing your display ad assets. And remember, assets were things such as kind of elements such as kind of our headline, descriptions, and in this case also applies to kind of images, videos, logos as well, because display adverts were not just restricted to text, which is what we were when it came to kind of search adverts of sorts that we spoke about already. So we're not limited to just that. Now, the Google Display Network, for those of you who haven't yet run any kind of display adverts before, so the Google Display Network is kind of a bank of lots of different websites that essentially allow for advertisers to advertise on their particular website. So that's what we kind of mean by the Google Display Network. It's a kind of a bank of those websites. So we can actually make sure that the adverts that we're running are actually, again, it's kind of with the theme of all of these types of smart creative solutions that we spoke about, is ensuring that the right advert gets to the right customers. And in the case of display adverts, on the right website as well. And what I mean by right website is that you have your ideal type of customer or consumer who is seeing the right type of advert on websites and web pages that they are actually visiting or frequenting on a regular basis as well. So there are benefits, again, of this type of smart creative, which is we can improve kind of the performance of our adverts. So rather than just kind of making kind of educated guesses on which type of websites and web pages that our advert is going to run, we can kind of help use the help of kind of machine learning and then review performance and make optimizations off the back of that as well. Now, we can also broaden our reach. So what I mean by that is that we can actually have multiple different headlines for multiple different adverts appearing on multiple different websites for either the same type of customer or consumer, and see which one is working the best. And that kind of goes kind of hand in hand with kind of making those optimizations and reviewing performance there as well. But the more kind of headlines and more kind of descriptions and kind of images that we kind of produce very much kind of helps us to kind of generate different variations of our advert as well. Now, again, it's a time saver. So all of these smart creatives that we spoke about already, all of them are, including this one, are time savers. It kind of allows us to spend a lot more time about discussing and kind of optimizing our kind of the technical side of our ad strategy in general as well. And what we can do is we can complement other types of campaigns that other types of kind of marketing campaigns. We might be doing kind of certain kind of remarketing. So we can kind of use these types of responsive display ads in conjunction with things such as remarketing as well. So what these responsive display ads can fall into a lot of the time is something which actually, as a process, helps us to fully optimize our advertising operation. Especially when it comes to running display adverts, is smart display campaigns. So what smart display campaigns allows us to do is it allows us to kind of utilize these three optimization technologies. So you've got smart bidding, you've got automated targeting, and you've got automatic creative. So all of these are autonomous kind of processes which get done on our behalf. So we don't have to spend the time doing this there as well. I remember something that I mentioned with the previous two types of smart creatives is that we still have an element of control with all of these as well. Now, smart bidding is really important, and it's something which can help us to kind of manage when it comes to things such as kind of budget. Now, we want to actually introduce kind of a smart bidding strategy by utilizing advanced machine learning, which will actually find out through kind of the Google's brain as to what kind of what's kind of the lay of the land when it comes to kind of the bids that are actually being put through currently, and that will kind of be registered in the machine learning kind of algorithm process there as well. And what smart bidding helps us to do, essentially, it helps not necessarily us to do, it helps machine learning to optimize for conversions. So any kind of auction that takes place in terms of what's your maximum kind of bid that you want to place in order for your display advert to appear on a particular website, it will ensure that you are kind of paying in line and you're bidding in line with what is kind of the going rate more than anything as well. And what smart bidding does is it allows us to actually kind of utilize these signals. So something I spoke about when I spoke about kind of smart creators is that it uses these signals. That's what Google Ads does in this smart creators process. It utilizes these signals and looks at all kind of the Google data set, including kind of which kind of devices that people are using perhaps as well, and then makes bids according to that there as well. Now, another kind of aspect when it comes to kind of this smart display campaign is a level of kind of automating kind of targeting as well. So it's something that we don't necessarily have to do. So you can see kind of this process here of kind of automatic targeting. So essentially you've got kind of machine learning at its kind of initial stage here of looking at the Google Ads data that's available, looking at your website content as well. Then off the back of that, it makes a prediction as to which type of websites, which type of consumers, and which type of consumers are visiting particular websites, and then makes a combination out of them and ensures that our display adverts that we're running, these responsive display ads that we're running, are running on relevant websites, which are backed up by information and data as well, which has allowed machine learning to make predictions as well. And then we've got kind of the third type of kind of automation technology, which is kind of automated creatives. So this is actually a little bit like what we spoke about at the very beginning of this webinar session, which was the first type of smart creatives that we were introduced to, which was responsive search ads. So we still on this type of smart creative of responsive display ads, we actually have to go back and now, if we're deciding on this type of smart creative, we have to feed that machine learning process, give it information. So again, we want to kind of feed it with information such as kind of headlines, such as descriptions, fill it with kind of logos, fill it with images as well. Because once we do that, the more kind of content that we provide to machine learning, the more kind of an informed prediction it can make. And then what it can then do is that it takes the heavy lifting away from us. And then what Google Ads will do is that it will create, you can see here, you can create kind of up to billions of combinations for you, depending on how many different kind of ad headlines that you've kind of created, and also things such as kind of as well as ad headlines such as kind of logos, different kind of marketing images that you want kind of using in some shape or form as well. So again, we're creating this bank of content, creating this bank full of kind of marketing images, logos, headlines, descriptions as well, and then that's all kind of created. That's all creating all these assets, which we've not got to worry about, because Google's machine learning is actually solving this for us and saying, oh yeah, maybe I take this one from here, take this one from here as well. So in terms of what we are providing and what is being provided by Google when it comes to setting up these smart display campaigns, when we are running responsive display ads, is we actually provide a target cost per acquisition. So we kind of provide that figure. Now, when it comes to kind of providing that figure of the target cost per acquisition, this is really important, because that then kind of flows into what is our budget and what's our budget going to be specifically for these type of campaigns. And then also the other thing that we're providing is something that we just spoke about, which are kind of those headlines, images, descriptions as well. So the creative aspect side of things. Now, what Google's bringing to the table when it comes to these smart display campaigns is that they bring access to the Google Display Network, so the inventory of websites that it has within the network, which you then have kind of access to in terms of kind of running your adverts on some of these websites. What they will also do is they will be providing the right bid for the right user. So that's where kind of smart bidding comes into play. So again, it takes out from our end a lot of kind of analysis and guesswork from our end as well. And then what also Google also does is that it creates kind of a combination of adverts, combination of these advertising elements with kind of a headline, an image, and a description. So a combination for each separate auction that we are kind of going into in general as well. So in terms of setting up a smart display campaign, we want to kind of set our budget for our campaign. Now, our daily budget is, as a kind of a good rule of thumb, that we set for a daily budget, it should be kind of more than 20 times our target cost per acquisition bid that is going to be placed in as well. And this kind of provides kind of for enough kind of leeway. So that's something to kind of just be mindful of when it comes to setting your budget. Next comes kind of the bid. And a lot of this kind of will kind of revolve around kind of that smart bidding process where Google's machine learning kind of takes over and kind of is there to kind of set up that smart bidding process for us. We want to make sure that we're maximizing our creative. So what I mean by that is we want to kind of provide as much information as we can. So we want to provide as many kind of headlines. So we can actually provide up to 5 ad headlines to this particular smart display campaign. We can actually add also 5 description lines, up to 15 marketing images. And I'd probably urge to kind of go up to that 15 as much as possible, and 5 logos. I know you might have kind of slight variations. Usually the logo is the logo. You might have kind of slight variants perhaps for maybe a smaller logo or larger logo as well. So we want to kind of use as many of those and kind of get to that limit as much as possible, because the more information that we provide to Google's machine learning, the more combinations it can create of different ads as well. Then we want to kind of just take a step back, relax, kind of just wait a little bit, wait for our campaign to start kind of kicking into gear. Because once we do that, we can look at the results, we can look at the performance, we can go into kind of the analytical side of Google Ads. Now we can also link that through to another Google tool called Google Analytics if we've got that installed and linked with our business website as well. So we can look at all this information and then make optimizations and adjustments to our campaign off the back of that as well. Now, I just want to kind of finish up on a case study here. So this is Trivago, and as you can see with these kind of moving images here, these are different combinations of adverts that were created for the hotel comparison site Trivago. So you've got different images, different headlines, different descriptions. None of them really have a logo from what I can see, but they might wanted to kind of add a logo, kind of emboss that into a particular image at times as well. That could have been an option as well. So with this particular with these types of kind of smart display campaigns that were kind of created for Trivago, 25,000 different versions of this advert was actually created. And it was and these adverts in general and total were actually showed to people across 55 countries worldwide who are actually looking for hotel deals, who are actually shopping around for hotel deals as well. So that's just kind of a case study there, just to kind of put that a little bit more in context when it came to those kind of responsive display ads there as well. So let's have a round up, see if there's any sort of questions, which I can't see at the moment. So let's have a look at your next steps. So in terms of your next steps, a really fantastic resource I'd like to kind of draw your attention to is the new Google for Small Business website. So this is a fantastic resource where you're able to kind of access the online success guide. You can have a look at the digital toolkit. You can also have a look at some tips as businesses for kind of dealing with the current kind of COVID times as well. So definitely kind of check out that particular website. You might want to kind of bookmark it and kind of refer to it at certain points within your kind of business journey as well. In terms of your other next steps wise, feel free to kind of book yourself onto the next webinar in this series of 5 webinars. So this is the second one that's been ticked off. So we've got the third one next week, which is on 29th of September on Wednesday, which is all about digital marketing strategy, which is going to be, I believe, at 11 a.m. So same time as today as well. So definitely kind of book yourself on to that. I'm sure that Emma will kind of drop a link again into the live chat for you. Also, check out the Google Digital Garage website for the online courses resource. Remember, it's the Fundamentals of Digital Marketing course, which once completed, you will actually receive a certificate from Google at no charge, recognizing that you completed that course as well. And feel free to also share these resources with friends, family, people in your support network. if you are going to share this information, maybe across kind of social media, feel free to include our hashtag, which is hashtag digital garage, that you can see on the screen here as well. So with that in mind, we'd also love your feedback. If you found this webinar session of use, and I hope that you did, both myself and Emma would appreciate a little bit of feedback. So there's a feedback form link, which I believe is in the video description box below, but I'm sure that Emma will kind of drop a link to the feedback form in the live chat for you as well. And with once you kind of completed the feedback form, you'll actually receive a link to download a PDF of some of the content that we've just been through in this webinar session on smart creatives. So apart from that, I want to say a massive thank you to our webinar partner, to Wexford Chamber and Dunleary Rathdown Chamber as well. I also want to say a massive thank you to Emma, whom I'm sure agrees has been a wonderful chat moderator. So feel free to show your appreciation down below in the live chat. And thank you very much for tuning into this Google Digital Garage webinar session. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you. Goodbye.